Good morning, everyone. My name is Isabella Bosque, and today my peers and I will be discussing to what extent has social media usage impacted the social norms of beauty among different high school genders.
Media, teenagers' tendencies to compare themselves to others. That has been causing consequences on the mental development of teens that later on has caused issues such as eating disorder and depression. The fact that so many teens contain a social media account, this also becomes a platform where they present themselves in the social media society. Social media goes beyond just a Facebook profile. It has grown to be so much more than that. This graph showed the number of teenagers in the United States that use social media and how that's a huge part of their lives. They can influence each other with what they post. It goes from places where they post pictures to videos to tweets and so much more than that. And teens are in a very area of it. Therefore, teens' mental development has increased since the use of social media. It can impact their self-esteem and their mindset of the good beauty standards, and which makes them feel they need to be a part of it. This graph showed how depression has increased since teenagers started to use the social media more often and how it still increases along the years. Society is also something that has increased due to how they present themselves and how they see each other in the platform.
Many studies have shown a correlation between lower self-esteem and social media usage. This graph right here shows us that both boys and girls, their self-esteem lowers between the ages 14 and 20. For girls, it suddenly drops, and for guys, it has been decreasing over the years. The graph next to it tells us that at least 24% of American teenagers feel like social media has affected them negatively. So as you can see, there is a correlation between social media usage and how teenagers see themselves. And since there's so many people on social media, brands have decided to get on them too. They know that at least for 60% of people, they need to see something 2 to 4 times before buying it. So you could say this social media is a good way for brands to promote themselves. And one of the ways they decide to promote themselves and sell their products is through partnerships with influencers. Influencers are people with big following bases. And a lot of times brands decide to partner up with them if their following base is their demographic, and it's a good way for both people to win. So what the influencer will do is they'll post a picture with the product and promoting it and saying how good it is, and the brand will pay them. So how does this relate to self-esteem? These influencers will pretend that that's something they use in their everyday life, and they'll get ready and they'll take really good pictures and they'll pretend that that's how their life is, and they will show an image to teenagers that's not real. They'll change their perception of reality in order to sell products to them.
My name is Iman, and I'm going to tell you about the same issue but from a different angle. We're going to be looking at the effect of social media on teenagers from a socio-cultural point of view. Starting off, as you can see, the rate of children having access to their own smartphones has gone up 41% since 2015. They are exposed to social media from an earlier point in life, which can have lasting effects faster than it would on adults. Being on social media, they're able to take a look into the many seemingly perfect lives online. This can lead to many self-image issues and body disorders. In a source called The Guardian, in which they asked many female teenagers about their point of view from social media, one girl named Maddie McGowan said that there is always an unspoken feeling in which one must be better than another, and that they must have many likes and followers. This thinking is what results in self-image issues, body disorders, eating disorders, and body dysmorphia. The culture of social media gives stereotypes of how a person must be and act. If they don't fit this stereotype, they're dubbed like weird and unlikable. On to the next slide, as you can see, speaking back to the stereotypes part, age also plays a role in gender stereotypes. Teenagers are believed to be always with their friends and post pictures in together and groups. Seeing all this online and not being able to take a part of it can also lead to mental illnesses such as depression, and can also cause the person to be victimized by cyberbullying. From an essay written by a capstone student, he says, when adolescents become victimized through social media, it can cause profound effects on the individual. These two slides go back to relate with our group question because the perspectives of reality are disordered by the standards and stereotypes brought on by this.
Social media has caused people to become addicted and have them wanting more. Social media is addictive both physically and psychologically. According to a study by Harvard University, self-disclosure on social networking sites lights up the same part of the brain that also ignites when taking an addictive substance. And this can negatively impact you because if social media can be as addicting like these substances are, it can lead to problems for you, especially if you have a job, for example. A social media addiction could affect how much work you put into that job. Over the past 5 years, there has been many studies assessing how social media use can negatively impact your health. Psychologists estimate that as many as 5 to 10% of Americans meet the criteria for social media addiction today. Scientists have made some questions to see if you have some sort of social media addiction. Number 1 is if she or he spend a lot of time thinking about social media. Number 2 is if she or he feels urges to use social media more and more. Number 3 is if she or he uses social media to forget about personal problems. Number 4 is if she or he tries to reduce social media use without success. Number 5 is if she or he becomes restless or troubled if unable to use social media. Number 6 is if she or he uses social media so much that they have a negative impact on his or her job or studies. Scientists say that if you answered yes to more than 3 of the questions, you may have or be developing a social media addiction. Ways you can stop social media addiction is by simply deleting social medias you don't use or being mindful of how much time you spend on social media.